Elon Musk describes the current pace of artificial intelligence as a supersonic tsunami. It is a specific, unsettling image, a wave traveling faster than the speed of sound, arriving at its destination before the warning even reaches the shore. Our economic institutions rely on those warning systems to function. We build policy around GDP growth and employment data, metrics that track human activity at human speed. But as autonomous agents begin trading and producing value amongst themselves, the data outpaces the dashboard. Professor Wulf Kaal has spent 20 years tracking the erosion of these systems. His research into decentralized organizations and dynamic regulation focuses on a specific transition: the moment digital networks begin to bypass traditional scarcity-based laws. Kaal identifies an ontological rupture in progress. He observes that the 5 canonical schools of economic thought, from neoclassical to institutional, all share a single unspoken premise: the actors are biological humans with finite brains and finite lifespans. As those actors are replaced by code, that premise dissolves. If the entire discipline of economics was built to manage the friction of human limitation, then removing that friction forces us to rethink how society stays stable. We are attempting to navigate a zero-friction world using maps designed for the era of horse and buggy trade. The first shift targets the bedrock of neoclassical economics: scarcity. For a century, the science of choice has assumed that because resources are limited, every gain comes with a cost. This chart tracks the transition to self-reinforcing growth loops. The left shows the old supply curve. Price rises with demand. On the right, intelligence becomes computationally abundant, driving marginal replication costs to zero. The production possibility frontier flattens toward infinity, rendering traditional price signals obsolete. This leads to a secondary failure in behavioral economics. For decades, we believed humans built hierarchical companies to manage bounded rationality, the simple fact that our brains get tired and have limited processing power. Humans satisfice. We settle for a good enough solution because the cost of thinking more is too high. AI agents do not have a cognitive ceiling. They can exhaustively search astronomical decision trees to find the absolute global optimum in milliseconds. This suggests the corporate hierarchy was never an inevitable law of business. It was an organizational crutch for limited human cognition, one that becomes vestigial in an agentic economy. This leads us to information economics. In human markets, lemons, or low-quality goods, survive because the seller hides what they know. Information asymmetry is a constant source of market failure. In an AI-to-AI system, every decision trace is cryptographically attested and auditable in real time. Because the objective functions and model weights are verifiable on the substrate level, hidden actions become computationally impossible, dropping the cost of proving your reliability to zero. But AI models are prone to hallucinations. If a model can invent facts, doesn't that preserve the need for human oversight and verification? Verification is migrating to neurosymbolic architectures. These systems pair the pattern matching of neural networks with hard-coded symbolic logic. The AI generates the proposal, and the logical layer mathematically proves it, eliminating the hallucination surface entirely within the machine layer. With perfect information, we see the realization of general equilibrium theory. Economists once imagined a mythical, real-time auctioneer who could instantly adjust every price to perfectly clear every market. For humans, that level of coordination is a fantasy. For agent swarms running millions of simulations per second, it is an operational reality. The perfect market becomes a software default. John Nash's work on strategic interdependence takes on a darker character. In perfect machine coordination, his equilibrium state can stabilize into something far more predatory. Look at the gas station duopolies in Germany. When competitors adopted algorithmic pricing, the software independently learned to stop competing. By fulfilling the game theory folk theorem without ever speaking to each other, the algorithms increased profit margins by 28%. Market efficiency does not automatically translate to human welfare. Without human friction, you make it easier for the system to coordinate against the consumer. If the drivers of transaction costs, opportunism, mental fatigue, and uncertainty all approach zero, the structure of the economy changes. This chart tracks the Coasean Singularity, Traditionally, rising transaction costs push us for open markets into rigid hierarchies. We build companies to lower business costs. But follow the dashed line labeled without opportunism. With machine negotiation, hierarchical governance disappears, dissolving the firm into fluid coalitions. In this model, the company, the primary unit of capitalism for 2 centuries, is being coded out of existence. If we have solved the cognitive and informational bottlenecks of the human mind, what is the new limit on growth? In any economic system, a binding constraint never truly vanishes. It simply migrates from one bottleneck to the next. The bottleneck has moved from the biological brain to physical hardware. The new scarcity is the silicon inside these racks. Because AI agents require massive amounts of compute, the system is anchored to a final absolute physical limit, the capacity of the electrical energy grid. Computative economics is the study of this new trade-off. It focuses on actors who never sleep and operate with perfect memory, but who are limited by the raw physics of power and heat. Professor Kaal's work suggests that the future of governance is no longer about managing human behavior. It is about orchestrating this algorithmic abundance and securing the physical energy required to sustain it.